Hello and welcome to Next Level Strategies. I am Tim Graham, and it is my aim to encourage, influence, and inspire you with strategies to take you to the next level in your life. It is in our last session, we talked about David and the extraordinary mentality that he displayed when he was confronted with the same really bad news that everybody else in Israel's army was getting. He was emboldened because of his faith in God. The image and voice of this giant Philistine did not even faze him, but instead David became the champion that put dread into the hearts of his enemies. It is easily one of the most famous historical events in all of the Bible, and rightly so. But did you know it was not many years later that David was actually on the side of the Philistines? And the Bible says he was greatly distressed and feared for his life. How did David go from greatly distressed to confident leader? We are going to look into this because I believe it has significant impact and application for our own lives. In 1 Samuel 30, verses 3 through 6, it reads, "So David and his men came to the city, and there it was burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no power more had no more power to weep." Jumping to verse 6. "Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters." Let's get a little context to fully recognize the emotional state and pressure that David was feeling at this particular time. David and his men and their families had defected to the Philistines so that they would not have to fight Saul and the armies of Israel. They wanted to avoid killing their own people, right? So they left. The Philistines were about to go to war with somebody else, and David and his men showed up to help. But the Philistine princes rejected their help, not trusting them. Go figure. So they sent them back to their new home of Ziklag. Now, the Amalekites took advantage of the men being gone and captured all of David's and his men's families and belongings and burned the city to the ground. So that is the context of 1 Samuel 30. Here we have a detailed description of David's emotional condition, and it is not good. Maybe you can relate to some of these conditions or these emotions. He was rejected and discriminated against. He was forced out of his own land, and the new land didn't want him, suggesting he was of no value. So his worth was in question. He and all the men wept. His mighty men of legendary valor wept. Weeping means to express deep, passionate sorrow by the shedding of tears. They had no power left, no strength left, no might, no vigor. It suggests being physically weak from sorrow and crying. He was distressed. Strain or difficulty, it means being worried, troubled. It's synonymous with concern, discomfort, dismay, anguish, hurt, pain, torture, agony, tribulation, misery, torment. And then he was greatly distressed, greatly, exceedingly, abundant, very, to a great degree. David feared for his life. The people who he trusted most in the world were talking of killing him. He went from this emotional state at the beginning of verse 6 to verse 9, where he was leading his men to battle to pursue the bad guys and ultimately recovered all. What happened between these verses to produce such a difference in emotional state, in confidence, and in his strength? The answer is found in two small phrases right here in the passage. At the end of verse 6, he gives one answer. He strengthened himself in the Lord, meaning he encouraged himself in the Lord. The beginning of verse 8 says, he inquired of the Lord. He sought the Lord with the expectation of hearing back from God. Yes, David was a great warrior. Yes, David was a great leader. But David's relationship with God is what made him truly extraordinary. A man after God's own heart. Let's listen to David's own words as to what he does in times of distress to strengthen himself in the Lord so that we can apply it to our own lives and situations. Here we have it in Psalms 4, verse 1 in the Passion Translation. God, you are my righteousness, my champion defender. Answer me when I cry for help. Whenever I was in distress, you enlarged me. I'm being squeezed again. I need your kindness right away. Grant me your grace. Hear my prayer and set me free. Psalms 18:6. In my distress, I cried out to you, the delivering God, and from your temple throne you heard my troubled cry and my sobs, and it went right to your heart. In Psalms 34, verses 3 and 4, we read, Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all of my fears. That word to magnify means to cause to grow, to make great or important, to promote, to make powerful. That word exalt means to raise up, to lift up, to uplift. David made God bigger than his problems. There are many more Psalms that we could go over, but they're going to say the same thing as these. In my distress, I cried to the Lord. I chose to uplift him and make him bigger than my problems. And from that position, I sought the Lord, and he heard me and delivered me. That is the essence. That is the essence, really, the definition of praise and worship. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. In his presence is fullness of joy. This is how we go from distress to confidence. This is how you strengthen yourself in the Lord. It is not enough for me to sing a few songs in church on Sunday. In my distress, because we all experience this state and emotion at times, I have made a habit of daily participation in magnifying the Lord, making him bigger and uplifting him and seeking his face. How long each day? How long does it take to get my emotion from distress to confidence? God inhabits the praises of his people, and in his presence is fullness of joy. I have not forgotten, we have been talking about joy. That is how we can have joy in chaos, magnifying the Lord above our problems. Thank you for listening today. I value your attention. If you are receiving benefit from these power words, I would ask you to share some love and like and subscribe. And if you know someone you think can benefit from these words of encouragement, please forward these videos to them by hitting the share button, and then you can text or email or message them the link. But until we meet again, develop the practice of magnifying the Lord, making him bigger than your problems. Have a great day.